Hello.
Hello.
We're here.
We're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Connections. This is a pre-recorded video. We're talking about ghost stories and unexplained things, and I would like to say thank you to my guests, Scott Allen, Spiritual Essence, Nancy Jean's Garden, over there that way, and Dr. Gail, Skywalking with Moon, for joining me. Yay!
Yay!
Yay.
Yay! Don't we sound thrilled? Yay! No. We had some technical issues, friends, but that's okay. That's all right. When you see this, there will be no technical issues. Fingers crossed. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And before we get into it, is there anything coming up on your channels that you would like anyone to know? Of course, your links are in the description box below the video. So if you're not already subscribed to their channels, please do go check out my friends because they're wonderful people, excellent readers, and good at what they do. What's going on with you, Scott, on your channel?
I'm kind of, after we ended Mystery Theater, I'm kind of free to do what I want to do. I usually do the Sunday coffee with Nancy Jean, of course, and then I started with Valerie Dragon Crystals on Tuesdays. So other than that, it's kind of free. I've been working on, I have, I don't know, 10 or 11 Akashic readings on my channel I've been doing. I have one more left, and then I'm doing one more live for Sherry.
Very nice.
Sherry, the Swamp. So, yeah, that's been my project, to practice those. Give some free ones. I have had 2 paid ones now, which are nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're going pretty well, and every time I do one, I learn something new about the universe.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sorry. Who was it? I forgot. When I did the one for Marina, I was seeing Lemurians were more indigenous or Neanderthal looking. They didn't look human when I started looking at Lemuria. So I'm like, they felt pretty primitive. And then when we were getting into Atlantis, I think they were all extraterrestrials.
Wow, that's very cool.
Because they were showing me they were like tall and skinny, and they had pointed like heads, a little bit bigger eyes, but there was like black and white striping to them, kind of. And like, those don't look like humans. I think they were all like a community of extraterrestrials, and they helped seed all these other civilizations like Sumeria and the Incans and Mayas, and
very interesting.
That's what I was saying, and it's like, I wonder if that's true or not, but that's what I felt like.
Well,
because I started looking, and I'm like, are these? They don't look like human. I mean, like as we are, especially like in the Lemurians. So I'm like, they look more Neanderthalic or originals, back 50, 100 years, or whatever it is, 100,000, I mean. It's like, I think that was a big hit there. It's like, how could Atlanteans be so advanced technology-wise if they weren't, from another solar system and seated here? So, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Like a reading is required, Scott, to figure out the answers to those questions. I love it. Nancy Jean, what's coming up for you, my dear, on your channel?
Well, I did a collaboration with Lalit, who's of Astrology Vibrations, and it was kind of, I've learned a lot about Zoom because I was trying to do it on Zoom Live. Anyway, that was my troubles today, and I won't bore you with them. She's wonderful though, and I'm going to do some more things with her. And then what I've got coming up is being out with real people, not just people on a flat screen. On Saturday, I'm doing a for real Halloween party with real people in a real house.
Wow.
Probably real COVID germs, which is probably a big mistake. Anyway, I'm going to go do that. And then Sunday, I'm doing with Scott in the morning, doing politics. last shot at it before the elections. And then Sunday afternoon, I'm going to be reading cards at Gretchen's at Dolly Python's in Dallas. And I'm going to let my local Dallas people know. If you don't live in Dallas, it's a bit of a drive, kids.
Yeah.
14 hours.
Anyway, and then I'm going to go back and get more into my normal things of meeting. Jeffrey and I are setting up our weeklies for we'll be doing those and just doing stuff. I'm doing a lot of readings. Today I did a lovely grid reading for a woman who had absolutely the most. I do 3-card pull before the reading.
Mm-hmm.
She had the Queen of Pentacles, she had the 10 of Cups, and the Sun.
Wow.
Now, I mean, I'm just like, I said, girl, this is going really well for you, isn't it?
Yep.
She's starting to figure out that she can go out now more. She has an underlying health problem that makes going out in the world of COVID very dangerous. But she said, I'm ready to start having things change in a positive manner. And then I'm doing ghost stories with you. And you and I have been talking about rotating a show on past lives. So
yes. Because I love reading with you, you know that.
Yeah.
Huh?
I love reading with you, you know.
I know. And I get to talk to Dr. Gail all the time.
Yes. Speaking of Miss Dr. Gail, this is Dr. Gail's first visit to Dozen Cats. And for those of you that are watching, Dr. Gail will be back live with me on Sunday at 3 p.m., where we will sort of review what happened here. And then we'll also be taking some questions from the chat and tossing some cards. And Dr. Gail will do her thing. And she's going to talk to us about all matters. And so welcome, Dr. Gail, to Dozen Cats, first of all. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. And what is coming up on your channel for everyone? Let them know what they can see when they go.
I basically do 2 lives a week. And the first one's usually on Mondays. And that's a Solaris Healing Center. So where I do some intuitive healing with people. And then the next one is geared towards ETs and people who are having ET experiences, get the word out right. So these are what I'm doing twice a week on my lives.
I love that.
But thank you for inviting me. This is my first time on this channel. And yes, I do work with the ETs a lot. So it's kind of out there what I do.
Well, it may be out there what you do, but I've obviously had the pleasure of sharing the screen with you when we were on with Nancy Jean. I think you're lovely. So you're not out there. Maybe what you do is just, not in everyone's sort of, we'll talk about it and we'll get them to sort of, get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're talking about ghost stories and unexplained things. And I went to Google, because I like to do my research, friends. And I tried to get a definition of what a ghost story is. And so this is what I got from Google. A ghost story is any piece of fiction or drama that includes a ghost. Or simply takes...
Imagine that.
Who would have thunk it, right? Or simply takes as a premise the possibility of ghosts or characters' belief in them. The ghost may appear of its own accord or be summoned by magic. And I was like, really? That's what we're going with? But that's what's there. The next thing that I saw that was right under that, I thought was really interesting. So I want to mention it because I feel in my own life, in my own personal experiences, ghost stories, instant fear, like I'm afraid. Right? And I'm sure that most people are. And when you're told those little stories when you're a little kid and you're out by the campfire on a dark, spooky night when it's raining and thunder and lightning and, like the intensity is built up and you are scared, right? This is really interesting. I thought, what do ghost stories teach us? Not only are ghost stories entertaining, they can also help children experience courage, for them to learn about different cultures, expand their sense of community, Sharing ghost stories can even help children grow braver as they face their fears in a safe setting, reading a book or listening to a ghost story. And I thought that that was really interesting and worth noting, on the off chance that you might have a kid in your near vicinity that you feel like you might want to share this story with. Just be kind to them, because you don't want to scare the wits out of them, just as a matter of mentioning. So who wants to share a ghost story with us?
Ghost story.
Should we have all like turned out
right?
with the flashlight, like with the where you get the widely? Yeah, never mind.
I can talk about my ghost stories.
Yeah, she brought a prop. You and Herschel Walker.
You and Herschel Walker, yeah, right.
Oh no, I don't want to be associated with that. Now that is going crazy.
Yeah, I got a Buddha.
Well, okay. I got plenty of ghost stories that I can talk about. Do y'all want to go first?
Whoever wants to
go
jump in.
I can tell you a real ghost story.
Okay.
That really happened. I'd been reading tarot since I was 12, and I was fortunate enough to go and be accepted into a national choir of American high school students, and we were touring Europe, and we ended up in a hotel in London, beautiful old, something out of a Hercule Poirot novel kind of hotel, the old Victorian looking thing. And we all of us, we each had our own bedroom, our own bed, and there'd be like three of you, and you'd be in a suite, and there'd have a beautiful little front room, very Sherlock Holmesy looking place too.
Right.
But it had the old lift cage kind of elevator, and I was on the 4th floor, and we were there for a couple days, and we'd done our rehearsals in Amsterdam and then come to London. We were getting ready for our first big performance, and a couple of the boys who were on the tour with us came, and this one guy said, "I can't believe that they did that to me." And I said, "What did they do?" And he said, "They tied all my clothes into knots in my closet while I was asleep at night." And I went, and the two guys were saying, "We didn't do it. We don't understand." Well, I was a Hans Holzer fan at that age, and I knew all his stuff. I said, "That sounds like poltergeist ghost activity." So Sue, who was my friend from my high school that was on the tour with me, she and I went back to their room, and we walked into the room, and you walked in the first room, and it was a big open sunny room with big giant windows letting sunlight in. And then we went back into the back of the rooms, and two of the bedrooms it was like you walked into a fog. I mean, the air, when they talk about air being heavy, it felt like it was clinging on you. And I said, "These two rooms are weird." And I didn't know which guy had which room. And one of those rooms was a room where all of his luggage had gotten kerflugeled. And then I went and looked at the bathroom. Bathroom was fine. I looked at Froggy, who was one of the guys he was claiming had done this to him. Went in Froggy's room, and Froggy's room was fine. It's just a room. So we went back out into the living room, because I said, I don't want to be back where these rooms are. And I was standing there looking at Froggy, who is about 6'3", 6'4". I'm all of 5'4", guys. So he was standing in front of me, and all of a sudden, all the big dark windows went completely black. This is in the middle of the day. And there was a faux chandelier hanging from the middle of the room. And I remember watching the lights in the middle of those little lighted candles go down to just a filament. That's all there was. And I looked around, and I looked at Froggy, and he was changing. This man was walking through him.
Wow.
And
I totally just got this chills. You're freaking me out.
I know. Well, this really happened, guys. I saw this. So the next thing I remember was my lily white hand reaching for the black doorknob and throwing that door open. And I ran over Sue, and Sue's 6 feet tall. I ran over poor Sue, and I got out in that hallway, and there was kids out there in the hallway that were going, "What's going on?" I mean, they were like, what those guys do, you know. And I said, and Sue got out in the hallway and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, Did you see it?" And she said, "Uh-huh." And then the next thing I know, Froggy is standing in the doorway. Froggy's body is standing in the doorway.
Right.
And this voice is saying, "I need to talk to you." And he's pointing right at me.
Nice.
You can help me. And I'm going,
Insert the bump, 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 bump. Sorry,
and this is, and even I was not an adventurous 17-year-old, but my 17-year-old soul was screaming, "Fuck you," and I'm out of here, you know. And I went roaring back down to my room, and about 2 hours later, we had to get ready to go to the hall where we were going to be singing in London. And we got there, and we're all sitting up in our choir place up on the stage, and they dimmed the lights. I don't know if the people were quick enough to see it, but Sue and I must have jumped 3 feet. You know, when that light dimmed, it was just like the light in that room. So at the end of the concert, Sue said, "We got to go. I mean, we don't have any other place to stay. We got to go back to the hotel." I said, "It's okay. We'll be okay in the hotel." So we go back to the hotel and we get ready for bed. And I don't remember anything about it being exceptional. And the next thing I know, I'm being woken up. I'm standing in the hallway holding a dinner knife and trying to open the door, the lift door, trying to get the cage door open. And the staff said, "How did you get the knife?" And I said, "I don't know, because we didn't have food in our rooms. We didn't ever have stuff up there." So they took me back to my room, and one of the hotel staff stayed with me. And of course, Sue woke up and she said, "What's going on?" And they said, "We found her in the hallway with a knife by the elevators." Well, Sue knew I wouldn't even get in those things to take it up there. Anyway, I ran up all 4 flights of stairs to be young and 17.
Right.
But, and then they came and they said, "You have to get dressed and pack your bag." And it ends up that the boys had been put in a room that the hotel's not supposed to rent because there'd been a suicide in there in World War II.
Oh.
And that man had thrown himself down the elevator shaft.
Whoa.
And his name was Steve. And they take their ghosts very seriously in England, besides the fact the police were ripping a new one into the management of the hotel. But the reason they had let the boys be in that room was because there was a dock strike. And so all people couldn't get out of Dover. So they filled up all the hotels around Dover. They moved up. And now there were anybody who had an empty hotel room, they were sticking people in it. Well, they didn't stick people off the ships. They stuck these teenage kids. We were leaving the next day anyway. So they moved me to another building and I finished my night's sleep over there. And I remember the one policewoman saying, "How long have you been a medium?" And I said, "I'm not a medium. I'm like 105 pounds. I'm like a small, you know." I don't know what she was talking about. And
I sing in the choir. Thank you.
thank you. I'm an alto. I'm an alto. And that opened up the door. From then on, the rest of the trip across Europe, I could tell you what room numbers you were going to have. I could draw what a room's going to be like in the different hotels. I mean, it just like, and it got to the point that the kids who come, we had 4 people from my hometown who'd come on the choir tour, and they were like, "We don't want to know. Don't talk about it anymore." And what I did with that is I went in to a parapsychological institute in Chicago when I came home, and I talked to them, and they gave me a bunch of tests. They said, "Well, you can do anything." And I said, "I don't want to ever do that again. I don't want to ever see another ghost thing. I don't want a ghost picking me out. I don't want to talk to them. They stay on their side of wherever they are and leave me alone." And that's when I learned probably one of the most valuable lessons I've learned in being a psychic is you don't have to accept all your gifts.
Right.
I still occasionally will have someone come in and want to talk through me to a client, but it's not what I do. It's not what I want to get paid to do, but that you can choose which skills you choose to create for yourself, and you shouldn't go into anything until you're comfortable with it. So that's my real life ghost story about how I figured out I was a psychic.
That's a really cool story. Thank you for sharing.
I've tried asking for seeing, but it's never happened. everything is all just visual. I mean, ghost stories or seeing things all happen to my daughters.
Oh.
So most of my stuff come from taking pictures. Like I was talking
Mm-hmm.
earlier, where I'd capture the soul as a white light orb. I mean, not
Mm-hmm.
just a gray orb. I mean, this is pure white light. Um, there was one time I was at a bar a long time ago, and I was talking to one of my friends, right? And she's still grieving over the loss of her son that died. He passed away at 3 years old,
Oh.
and this is many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
He just died of he had some kind of failure. I can't remember now, but and I kept seeing him. So I'm getting a little reading or whatever, and I kept seeing him over her right shoulder. And like, your son's with you constantly. So I'm like, can I take your picture quick? There he was, this white light orb over his shoulder,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling the story earlier. A friend of ours died in a car accident. He went listen. He was drunk driving and constantly doing that. Well, he didn't make it home that night. So it was a few months later, we're having a party and we're talking about him. And all of a sudden, a friend asked, "Can you talk to him? Is he around?" I'm like, "He's here." So I didn't know him quite as well, but I knew who he was. So I started acting like how he dances and a girl he was interested in, all this stuff. And like, yep, that was him. And all of a sudden I'm like, he's here. And I'm like, I gotta grab my phone quick. And I'm like, click. 2 feet around, white light orb is hanging in the kitchen. He's
Mm-hmm.
with us. He's
Mhm.
enjoying the time with us. So that energy is so intense. There was another time when I was dating this girl. She was a medium too, and there was a ton of spirits in the house all the time because they know they can talk to us, right?
Mhm.
So there's this one night I was sitting down, getting ready to watch a movie, and I clicked off the light, and all of a sudden I had this like flash. It was like a
Mhm.
flash went off, like the old, like a camera phone with the flash, right? I'm like, what the heck is that? I turned back the light on, thinking there was ghosts here or something, right? Nothing. So I shut the light off and like, I'm gonna grab my phone. Took a picture of the living room. So the TV in here is over here, and then over there is the dining room table, and but that's where I seen all the flash. Took the picture, thousands and thousands of orbs,
Mhm.
all different color lights. Some were brighter than others. I'm like, no wonder why I seen a flash. All that
Mhm.
spirit energy was there. I'm just like, wow.
It's a lot
So
of
like I said, most of the stuff happened to my daughters. They got locked in their room. They've seen uh, like a black mist go in front of their door a few times. My daughter would wake up and see something in the corner of the room, and she'd ask me, "What is that? Who is that, Dad? Who's that, Dad?" But I've had audible things or smelling things.
Mhm.
Like I hear footsteps in the attic or hear knocking here and there.
Yeah.
Like a time I was thinking of my grandpa that passed, and all the time started smelling his cigar smoke. And not cigar. He used to smoke a pipe a lot. He smoked cigarettes forever, but that pipe is distinct, right?
Yes.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, why am I smelling? You know, who's smoking a pipe, right? I'm like, so I just started sensing. I'm like, oh, it's Grandpa. I'm thinking of him, and so I never had any. I stayed at numerous places purposely to try to see if there was some experience at a hotel. Never happened. No.
That's
So I wish
interesting.
I had better ghost stories. There's stories that people have told me, like with Ouija board experiences or something. Oh, there is one story. There's a apartment above uh, a bar in my hometown, and there was a guy that lived there for almost all his life. Before, and he ended up passing away in that apartment. And that bar downstairs, he would always patronage. He'd eat there, he'd drink there, he'd go up and sleep. That was his life, right? So when he passed away, a few years later, people would rent the place out. You know, there was experiences constantly in that room. Things would be moved. The closet door or the cupboard doors would always be open. There would actually be plasmic slime coming out at times too. There's such intense energy there. Doors would be open, for the kitchenware and stuff, those slide doors, all the time. Things would be unplugged. Things moved. So his energy's still there. When I would go there, I purposely tried to connect on it. There's no bad energy in the bar or anything. It's just like he never left. Especially to have plasma energy with actually goo dripping out of the cupboards and whatnot. But people just lived there, just accepted it was him. There was never anything harm done. Never any harm done. Just like, I got to close the cupboards again. That kind of thing. No one had any freaky dreams. It was him. And everyone that lived there accepted that. It's like, well, if you're going to rent the place, you're going to have a visitor.
That is so
those are my little stories, I guess.
I have a really quick story. I think it's quick. It was more of I think there was a ghost there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the whole. I think the reason why I find it so fascinating is because it had nothing to do with me, and I'm not. I sort of got railroaded into the situation, right? So my sister is working as like a nurse that goes into people's homes to look after them, and she was going to this home and looking after this family's mother. And then the mom got sick and went in the hospital. When the mom got sick and went in the hospital, the husband dropped dead on the driveway and had a heart attack. Then mom died. So they're at a loss. My sister's like, I got to go to the funeral. And I'm like, I will come with you, right? She's about, my sister's about 20, right? So I go to the funeral with her and I'm like, oh my God, is this the people? Because I went to school with the daughter. I know these people, which is just weird. And it turns out that the moms, so the couple that own the house, we'll call her the wife in order to, right? The wife actually worked at the same hospital as my sister did. So it was just one of those weird things where we were all connected, but we didn't know we were all connected, if that makes sense. Anyway, so they want to take mom's, fly mom to where she came from for her service. And so they ask my sister if she will stay in the house to look after the dog, because the dog's not been right since the husband died. My sister says, okay. My sister's in the house for 5 minutes and she is on the phone going, oh my God, you got to come over here. Right? There's so many weird things. So she's freaking right out. So I go over there, right? I got all the goods, right? All the junk food, because I'm thinking we're staying up all night. So I go over there and the mom, so the grandma, she had a room in the basement, like a bedroom in the basement that was sort of like a guest room. And I don't think that she really ever slept in there, but she had a wardrobe where all of her clothes were. Okay. Oh. And the dog, this little weeny tiny little poodle dog, we were in the basement, watching TV and what we call the rec room here in Canada. And so we were sitting there watching TV and the door is over here somewhere behind us. And the dog is literally on point, standing there staring at this door. And it's just it will not stop. And I'm like, okay, what's in the room? My sister's like, well, that's where grandma kept her clothes. I'm like, we have to open up the door. She's like, anyway, so this is what we were doing. That's why it's so fantastical, right? Because the whole thing was so stretched out and elongated because we kept going back and forth about what the right move was. We literally thought we were Ghostbusters, like the movie. But anyway, so the dog's standing there, the dog's barking. We open up the door, and there was a dress that was laid out on the bed in such a way that it looked like someone was about to put it on. And she'd been gone for a couple of weeks, and it was just weird. And so I was like, is that normal? Because my sister's been in the house. I've never been there before, right? And she's like, I don't know. Anyways, we tried to close the door. The dog went absolutely berserk, jumping up on the bed. He's like attaching itself to the sleeve of the dress, and like as if he's trying to like rip it apart. But he wasn't like trying to do it damage. I was so freaked out by this, but not by the dog's reaction to what was going on, that we literally packed the dog up and we took that dog to my mom's house. My mom is allergic. We didn't tell my mom that the dog was in the house. We didn't even tell my mom that we were in the house. We like stuck the dog in the house and snuck upstairs, and we were there for like a good 10 hours before my mother realized that we were in the house with the dog. That's how quiet this dog was. But yet when it was at its own house, it lost its ever-loving mind. And I still don't know what that was. I don't know if grandma was there. I don't know. Look at my ears are like burning red. I don't know if my husband was there. I don't know. Or maybe they were both there. I don't know what was going on. But that dog sensed something, and it freaked me out that I was like, I can't go back there. Like, I just can't. It's all kinds of not good. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that was. But it's one of those unexplained things that I actually don't really want to know the answer to. It was just, like we escaped with our life. It was fine. We were just like, my ears are on fire, literally.
Yeah.
Such a wimp.
Like my dog was sensing a spirit, but they would just look at it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't bark.
Oh yeah, this
I've
dog
never
was
seen a
full on attack.
It's probably like a like Biden's dog knowing the secret agent wasn't good. That kind of
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like I had to figure out like, why does my dog keep looking in the corner of the room?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is weird. So I finally it's like, okay, I'll figure this out. So I just meditated and I started concentrating, and like then I started seeing this little boy, pass.
Yeah.
And I seen he was leaning over his grandfather, like maybe his grandfather was on a table or in a casket.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looked like he was praying or grieving. And it's like he never crossed over.
Right.
So I just kept concentrating and saying, you're gone. Just go to the light, look up. I mean, your grandpa's not there. Your grandpa's up there. And all of a sudden he looked up and it was like, he went,
Wow.
and the dog never looked in the corner again.
That's
no harm, but it was just kind of oddly, like every once in a while, I just stare at the corner.
Yeah.
And then this is a relatively new house. It's only 22 years old or so. So it isn't like my fiance is the only one that's ever lived here. Her and her ex-husband, and the kids and mom. So that isn't like there's anything in this property. So I'm not sure where it came from. But you moved on. That energy's gone. It's really strange.
Interesting, isn't it?
I've never seen any bad, even at the house, old farmhouse, dogs never barked or got crazy. They just kind of every once in a while just looked at the corner or something, or the cats.
I've had animals all my life. Not that makes me an expert. I'm just saying I've never had an animal react in that way. The dog was so gentle and so calm and so sweet and so loving. But it was, I don't know if it was, if he was trying to show us something. I don't know if he sensed something, but I honestly felt like we were like intruding. That like that's what I didn't feel like he was in any, like it wasn't anything that he was afraid of. It was like he wanted in there. You know what I mean? Even though he got in there. I don't know. Maybe it was just an emotional reaction that, because he didn't understand what was going on. And this would have really been like the first time that the house had slowed down since the events happened. I don't know what it was, but it was fascinating. And even in hindsight, it still freaks me out because within a half an hour, he was like quiet and like not a peep out of him. So I don't know what that was. Dr. Gail, do share. I'm dying to hear stories from Dr. Gail.
My stories are totally different. I tend to attract the high maintenance ghosts.
Oh no!
I attract the high. They need. What I've learned is they want special treatment, and a lot of them did not get special treatment while they were here. And for them to transition, they want somebody to either listen to them or do something special to them or for them. And one of my examples, because I've got many, was I had a piece of rental property, and it was a really nice rental property, and I had decided I was going to sell it. And I'd had it probably about 10 years, and I was the second owner of the house. And it was not selling. And I was asking my real estate agent, we couldn't figure out what was going on, what's going on. Yeah. And then finally I decided to go in the house for a little bit by myself. And I walked in, and I knew somebody was in the attic. And it turned out it was the previous owner. She had never passed on. And so I was trying to connect with her. And what she was doing, she was putting a smell at the door for every biter who came in, that it stunk if they walked in the door, because she didn't want anybody else to buy it. And so anyway, her thing was she did not want to transition because she was afraid. She loved to smoke, and she was afraid she couldn't smoke on the other side. And I was going, no, that's not true. I smell smoke on the other side all the time. You'll be able to smoke. Anyway, so then the next thing she requested is she wanted a special oatmeal raisin cookie from a special bakery in that town. So I went and got a special plate, some special cookies, and I put it down. I was not going in the attic, and I put it down under the attic, and I went, here's your cookies. And she comes and she looks at them and she goes, okay, I'm ready. So when she did transition, on the other side, I saw a man standing there, had a lit cigarette, and gave it to her. She came over. She was very happy. So mine just tend to be like that. Mine are high maintenance. So
I have one other ghost. Do you have another one, Dr. Gill?
Oh yeah, I have more, but you go ahead, Nancy.
I have another ghost. Mine are all personal, but when I was in college, a friend of mine, Tommy, was in the airborne division, and he had avoided going to Vietnam because his brother was over there. And at that time, they wouldn't put two family members in the same theater of war. And his brother came back, and so Tommy had to go. And that whole summer, Tommy and I would just go out, and we'd just go away from our other friends, and we were going out for dinners. And everybody's, oh, it's getting really special with you and Tommy. And what they didn't understand is that Tommy and I both knew he wasn't coming back. And I was the only person he could discuss that with. And I said, it's not, there's no foregone conclusions. Fates can change. You'll see. But I kind of knew with him that was what was going to happen. So he went to the fort in Georgia, and then flew to Vietnam. And I went to college at SMU, and it was my sophomore year. And I was at a party one Saturday night at this friend's duplex that was walking distance from the campus. And I looked out on the porch, and Tommy was standing there on the porch in his fatigues.
Wow.
And I looked again, and he just nodded and smiled. And then he just disappeared, like they show that they could take their energy away. So, and when I was young, I was 19 then, I didn't drink. And so I was just like, I just have to go home. And I just abruptly left the party and walked back to the campus and walked into my dorm room, and I closed the door to lock it and check it. And I turned around, and it's the only angel I've ever seen in my life. She was standing there in the middle of the room. She was holding a big white candle. It was so bright. People said, what does she look like? I know that she was very, very, the energy was very soothing, and she was, very inviting. And I said, he's gone. And she said, yes. But she said, I'm here with a message from him. Because of talking with you and the things you discussed, he just was able to walk out of that battle and walk into the other side. She said, we let him come back briefly so you could see him. But she said, he's clearly on the other side. He's not locked in any pain. You don't have to worry about it. But he wanted me to come to make sure you understood you weren't just imagining things. And I thanked her, and then she faded away like he had. And I just laid down and went to sleep, and just slept for like 12 solid hours. Got up on the Sunday, went to classes, and did all the things I needed to do. But I'm sure I was rather zombie-like because I knew it was coming. Tuesday afternoon late, my mother calls me And she said, how's it going? What's going on at school? Blah, blah, blah. Got any tests? Got anything going on? I said, no, nothing. Why? And she said, well, I said, Tommy's dead, isn't he? And she said, yeah, Tommy's dead. And she said she was going to send flowers from our family to him. And she said, how did you know? And I said, he came to see me, but we didn't talk. He just came and went across.
Right.
And so that's my other. So you can get messages from the other side that can be soothing and letting people know they're okay.
I love that. I have I had an experience that I'm sure that other people have had this too. I hope. I don't actually know if this was a dream or if it was a visit, to be honest. And I don't know if there's like a technical name for it. So when I was getting married the first time, I was, really wishing that my grandfather would be there, but he had already passed. And I had gone out with my mother and my grandmother like two nights before this had happened. And so I was talking about my grandfather, my papa. And I was saying, do you think that Papa would be proud of me, Nana? And I don't know why I was doing that, but that's where my head was at. So a couple of nights later, my point is he was on my mind, right? So a couple of nights later, I had a dream. At least I think it was a dream. I don't actually know. So my dream, I woke up. I remember it was so detailed. Like I still remember what I was wearing. I remember exactly what I did. So I get out of bed. I'm hot. I need a drink. I walk to the kitchen. I walk into the kitchen that's got two entrances, right? One from the living room and one from the dining room into the kitchen. I go in through the door from the living room to the kitchen. I open up the door, which covers up the doorway to the living room. I bend down. I get myself a drink. I open up the freezer door. I get out ice cubes. I close the door, turn around, and I'm like, oh my God, my papa is laying on the couch. Now, that may seem weird to people, but my grandfather worked nights. And so I was babysat for the first 5 years of my life. And every day when I was there, Papa would lay on the couch, literally could hold himself up by his elbow and sleep to make it look like he was still awake, but he was actually asleep. And I would sit on the floor right by his head, leaning up against the back of the couch. And he would talk to me, pull on my hair, joke around with me, right? And I draw and I color and we'd watch cartoons and he would fall asleep, but he was always like this. So, so I thought he was still awake is the point. Mm-hmm. And I walked over and I said, oh my God, Papa. And I sat down on the floor exactly how I did when I was a little girl, and I had my drink, and he did the same thing, and he touched my hair, and he said, I miss you. And I said, I miss you too, Papa. And he said, everything's going to be okay. I love you. And I'm like, okay, Papa. And then I said, I got to go back to bed. And I got up. And when I went to turn around to give him a kiss goodnight, he was gone. And I remember being really sad. And I walked myself back to my room, and the little tears were rolling down my face. So I got into bed and I fell back asleep. Well, I woke up. I walked out into the kitchen. Mm-hmm. I needed a drink. Went to the fridge, opened up the fridge door, opened up the freezer door, put the ice cubes in the drink, closed the door, turned around, and I went, oh, Jesus. I just dreamt. So the point is, I did exactly what I did in my dream up until the point where I turned around to look and see my grandfather, which obviously then wasn't there. And because it was so detailed, I still to this day don't know if that was a visit or if it wasn't. All I know is that it made me feel better, and it quelled my nerves in terms of what I was worried about. But I still don't know what that was. But it was so vivid and so real and so detailed. That was 30 some odd years ago, and I remember it distinctly.
Then it was a vision. It was not a dream.
I knew it. No.
Yeah, there's some things you
It was
never
a
forget.
fascinating experience, really. Is there like a technical name for that? Do you know? Like when, because I've heard other people say that they weren't sure if it was a vision or a dream. Is it?
Well, since I have weird visions that get ride dragons and things, I'm probably not the best person.
Jump
I'm
on.
probably not the person to ask either.
What's his
But
name? What's his
I
name?
didn't
Gecko
have those
or
when I was younger. I didn't have those. I had one apocalyptic dream, and I'm not going to go into it now because it's not a ghosty story. But when I began to realize how wrong some things were going on in my life, that sent me in a new direction. Now, I don't know if I'm sure Addie, my guide, who has, when I finally did meet Addie in a meditation, and I said, I was 69 when I met her. And I said, I hope you don't think I was rude that I kind of ignored you all those years. And she said, no, you did everything I told you to do, so I didn't care. So she didn't have to go to extraordinary lengths to.
Right. To like
But,
hold it down. I love it.
So,
Dr. Gill, do you have anything else for us? Another lovely little tidbit of a high maintenance. I kind of like the high maintenance.
I like her high maintenance ghosts.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah, I had another high maintenance. My very first high maintenance ghost was one that I was going down to go hiking with my two dogs at that time, and one I passed a restaurant, and everybody told me there were ghosts to that restaurant. I looked over there, and the next thing I knew, one was in the car with me. She rode all the way down to the trails, and I thought we got out of the car and left and came back, and I thought she'd be gone. Oh, nope, she was still there. She rode all the way back to my home, and I kept asking her, "What is it that you want? Why aren't you here?" And when we got into the house, she finally said, and this was hours later, she says, "I want you to connect me with a shaman in Hawaii." I hardly even knew what a shaman was at that time.
Sure, I'll get that on speed dial right now for you.
Exactly. So I'm going, well, a shaman in Hawaii. And I said, and I tried to talk her into transitioning and this and that. She goes, no, I can't transition. And I'm going, why can't you transition? She says, I was a really bad person in my life. And I'm going, well, that's not you're not going to be judged for that here. You can go ahead and transition. You're going to go to school and you can discuss everything. And I was telling her all that. And she kept going, I want a shaman in Hawaii. So I'm calling everybody I knew. I said, does anybody know shaman in Hawaii? And then finally dawned on me, call on my guides. I called on Matt, Kai, and Sally, and I said, take this lady to the shaman in Hawaii. And so she did, and then they took her there, and then she came back immediately, and she says, I just wanted to make sure you would do that for me, because I was really a bad person in my life. And she says, I knew if you did that for me, then I knew I could trust what you were saying was true, and I could go on. So that was another example of how.
See, now that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you just said that, because I just wrote down a question. So we discussed just tossing a few cards before we leave you guys on ghosts, and I was trying to think of a question. And when I wrote this down, I was like, I probably should have asked you all this before we went live. But the question is based on what Dr. Gill just said, right? So why did ghosts scare us? That's my question. I feel like you sort of might have just answered it, like just getting our attention. They're trying to gain our trust or our approval.
Right. In fact, I had a friend talking to me.
Build a connection with us, I guess, a bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to answer? Because I just dealt with somebody with this today. She was scared of a ghost. And I tapped in, and all they wanted was her attention. And that's what they're trying to do.
I love that. I mean, I think it's cool. Let's toss a few cards on it just before we go.
Like seeing something you're not used to is scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
For her. And their energy is definitely different. And when I was young growing up, Hans Holzer used to always say, ghosts couldn't hurt you. I knew that guy in England would have, if he could have hurt me, he would have.
100%.
I'm going to use this deck.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what entity is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I use the supernatural deck from the show.
Oh, that's a cool deck.
Yeah. So I got the Hangman, Empress, and Seven of Cups. That's all about our loved ones. You know, from love to, so we get the Hangman as a transition, and then we got the Empress, and then coming back in spirit with the Seven of Cups. So that's all about our loved ones and gaining energy for us. That's the good stuff. And it's odd enough how it came out this way. The Knight of Swords, the Devil, and the Ace of Wands. These are the energy and spirits that don't want to move on. You know, these are the ones that can affect things. Because, like with the Empress energy, they'll come to us when they need us, right? The other ones don't want to leave. They can do bad things. They're the ones that'll start knocking off shelves and not making emails go, and whatever the case may be, turning off your phone or making you not sleep at night. So, I mean, those kind of energies are rare. Definitely want to get that out there. But I've dealt with a few cases of friends needing help, and these are the kind of energies that you need to release and get rid of. But that is that kind of energy. It's kind of weird. The Knight of Swords here has on her shirt, "The devil made me do it." It's kind of weird. And then the actual devil card of that is actually in jail here. So they're imprisoned. You know, they're imprisoned close to the earth, and then that fire energy. So that's how a lot of these ghosts, you know, these hauntings happen. Of energy that gets trapped.
I love that. And I kind of I'm kind of digging the cards that I pulled, I have to say.
Okay,
You know,
what'd you get?
when spirit works with you and it just makes you feel really, really good.
Yeah.
I used the Guardian of the Night Tarot. I tried to use the Little Witch cards. Everyone here on my channel knows about my raisin pack, so I avert my gaze because I can't see them, so I switched. So we start out with the Three of Wands, right? Expansion, goals, trying to figure. I mean, literally, the bird is like, now, if I just aim directly at that big spot right there, is that what I'm doing? Right? I've got the Five of Cups. Now, I know that the Five of Cups is more like a crying over spilt milk type of vibe, but I literally feel like, based on what Dr. Gill said, not that it's that I'm saying that because Dr. Gill said it, that it's true. In that particular story that you told, I literally felt sympathetic almost to the ghost's transition, right? This happened to them, and they are just as confused as we are, right? When we're going through a grieving process. And so I literally feel like in that moment, like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do, you know? A little bit wounded. Like, you know what I mean? And then I've got the Magician. So they want us to use all of our resources and our power to help them. And then I've got the Queen of Cups on the bottom of the deck, which, hello friends, right? It's love, it's your psychic ability, it's your intuition, right? It's your connection. They literally want us to help them. I don't think that they mean to scare us. I think they're just trying to get our attention, like you said, Dr. Gill. That is so cool. I'm pleased by that. Nancy Jean?
Okay, I got the Knight of Wands. I mean, the ghastly looking thing. And it said he's the sort that brashly moves on, and he needs to because the flesh is falling off of his body. The Two of Wands means that they're really standing at a crossroads and they don't know what choice to make. And then the next one is the Five of Hazards. That's a Five of Swords. And that's literally take no prisoners. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of intentional tying to the earth. And there's the Ace of Swords. They know they need to make a decision and they don't. But then the last one was the Three of Hazards, which is like the Three of Swords. And it's that there's so much pain in their life, they can't make a good decision. And the other thing is, the bottom of the deck was the Chariot. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's a zombie apocalypse scene with all these cars smashed on the road.
Good Lord.
They didn't plan their exit very well. So I think it's some that they don't know what to do. They're very, very, very confused. I think I had a friend who used to work with energies like that, and she said she had to go to a house because the family was being haunted by, they believe, was a family member, and he was a drug addict, and he died in their house of a drug addiction. So that's the mental state he's still in.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. Did you pull any cards, Dr. Gail?
Yeah.
I pulled out a Moon Magic deck, and I just pulled one card, and it's the Waxing Crescent card.
Mm-hmm.
These are such pretty cards. And the reason I only pulled one is because it says, I see the gateway is open and the pathway is clear. Our journey begins. So
Wow.
I think, yeah, that's connecting us to them, and that we're all starting to understand what they're going through and what we need to do to connect with them.
That's awesome. Good card, Dr. Gail. I love that deck. I have it too. You guys, this has been fascinating. I literally could sit here and talk to y'all about this all night long. I know that you have
No,
lives.
you can't. I have to go to bed.
She's like, I'm out of here. Thanks.
I've already done like 3 shows today.
Yeah,
Oh,
actually, I did too. This being my third. So, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, thank you very much for hanging out with us. And please do go check out Scott Spiritual Essence, Nancy Jean's Garden, Skywalking with Moon is Dr. Gail's channel. If you're not familiar with them, their descriptions or their links are in the description box below. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
All
Yes.
right, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for inviting us, Kelly.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. All right, we're out of here. Blessings, everybody.
Have a happy Halloween. Go vote.